Thank you for watching our Vows by Mojica. These episodes offer realistic tips and stories that will help keep our marriages strong. Here, we interview couples who have been married for 20 plus years, who show us what it means to them to keep their marital vows. This season, we interviewed couples who, during moments of trials, differences, and tragedies, learned that it was by stepping back and refocusing their energy and commitment in each other that they were enabled to find strength in their marriage.
I'm Troy.
And I'm Lisa.
And we've been married for 34 years. I'm a native Kansan, grew up in western Kansas on a farm, ranch. Kind of had that type of a life, kind of a rural type of life where we worked hard and played hard and did those things. Kind of got an appreciation for the earth and the soil and the land, and it was a good life for me. I enjoyed growing up that way and had a good family that were strong members of the church and stayed faithful and gave me that testimony of the church.
I grew up mainly in town. I wasn't a farm kid, but we did have a lot of animals when I was younger, and so I grew up with a lot of horses and that kind of thing. We moved probably every 2 years, so I was in several different high schools, and that's how I met him, was when I was a sophomore in high school. So we lived in western Kansas for 6 months and then moved away. And so that's how I met him, was in high school, and he was my first date. And so we went to homecoming together, and he was the homecoming king. And everybody kept asking, who is this girl in the red dress? Because they didn't know where I was from, because I was from Scott City and he was from Leota. And so that was my very first date, and he was my last date. And that's kind of went from there. We kept in touch, and even when we moved away, even though we dated other people, and he went away to Japan for 2 years on a church mission, and he came home. I was in nursing school, and then he came back. He came to Nebraska to see me, and it was just supposed to be. We just could talk about everything. We just felt like we were such good friends, and I was never embarrassed. I could tell him anything, and I was never embarrassed, and could never felt belittled or stupid when I would ask something stupid, So that's kind of a little bit about how we met. We actually met dragging Maine, and my sister was driving the car, and our car, and he was driving his car. He had a nice blue Torino, and I looked over as we stopped, and she introduced us, and man, he was so cute. He was so cute.
We were in a small church in Scott City, and there might have been 50 or 60 people that came to church any given Sunday. So the options were fairly limited for
oh, great. Now you're saying the options.
For girls and for Lisa and her family to move into our church was like a godsend for us. It was like a miracle to have them move in, that were not only shared our beliefs, but were very attractive. So that worked in my favor. And so that's how we met. She wasn't old enough to date because she had to be 16 to be able to date. So we did a lot of things on our youth nights. We found that I would take her home afterwards, and we could sit and talk for hours. And
in the driveway.
Till her mom would flash the light and tell us it's time to come in. And so that's kind of how we met. And then, like she said, we parted ways after that one date and just kind of kept in touch. And the rest, we found our way back to each other after the different paths that we took. And we got married.
Everybody I dated, I compared to him. You know, I just always think, oh, I don't know, you know. And in fact, a lot of the people I dated after him looked like him. You know, they were kind like him, and because I tried to find someone just like him, you know, every time. So.
Yeah.
I, looking back on it, don't know that I prepared very much for my wedding day. I just knew that I was excited to enter into marriage and find somebody that I could spend the rest of my life with. My friend from high school accompanied me out to Utah about a week ahead of time. So we just enjoyed hanging out and having fun the week before our marriage, which to me was fun, and it kept me from thinking about the solemn covenant that I was about to make. But that was my preparation. I think my preparation began long before that week before my wedding, because I began thinking several years before that what I wanted in a wife and what I wanted in mother of my children, and began to formulate that list in my mind of what I wanted, and not to check the boxes when I met a girl, but were those certain things that I wanted to see in a prospective wife, and then of course to have that attraction to one another was important. I think in dealing with anything that didn't quite match what I was looking for, I thought more of an eternal perspective of, will she be a good mother to my children? Will she be a good companion and a helpmate for me the rest of my life? Will she help me succeed in those things that I want to succeed in? And will she allow me to help her succeed? And together, are we better than we are apart?
You know, I just had this great vision on our wedding day, you know, because I was checking the boxes. I was thinking, he's this, he's this, he's this, he's this. Yes, he's the one for me. And, you know, on our wedding day, we knelt across from each other and held hands. And it created this vision in my life of being together forever. And I knew with him that our faith was the same, our faith in Jesus Christ, which I think gave such a solemn foundation for everything that we would do. And the part of holding hands, that we would do it together. And that was always my vision from then on out, that we would do this forever together, and that everything we did, it would work out and it would be okay. And because we could do it together and we'd help each other. When I was weak, he'd strengthen me. And when he's weak, I'd strengthen him. And I felt like that's what it's been when, you know, we've had some hard things in our marriage. You know, there's been, I've had a lot of health issues. I've had some issues with my heart. And one time I was sick for 2 years with my heart. And then just recently again, you know, was sick again, and have had some other health issues as well. And he learned how to do the dishes really well. I thought that's what, and I told him, you know, that's what makes me love you. I think the sexiest man is a man doing dishes. So he would, you know, he'd get up from the table and do the dishes, and he's had to shave my legs for me, you know, when I was so sick, and he's had to carry me up to bed and feed me oatmeal. I mean, it was to that point where we were so afraid that we might not be together, you know, and to know that he loved me so much that we were married in a place we believed would keep us together forever, even in the next life. And it put everything quickly into perspective, you know, that even through those hard times that we could look toward that day with eternal perspective. In whatever it was, it's going to be okay. You know, he would bathe the children, and we've always kind of felt that we helped each other with the responsibilities that we had. You know, it was shared. I never had to do all the housework by myself. He helped me. You know, he never had to do all the yard work himself. We do it together, and we've learned how to work hard together, and our children have learned that as well. And I see that tradition in all of our children, because that's one of the things I loved about him is we went out on the farm when I was engaged, and I looked out, you know, he took me on the water truck to go water all the cattle. And I remember looking at him and just watching him through the rearview mirror, and him getting out and breaking the ice for the cattle. And he's not been afraid to work hard, and I knew that he would provide for me and for our family, and that I didn't have to worry about that. And I didn't have to worry about him not only providing for us financially, but providing emotionally, and that he would just take care of us. And I knew that. And then I also knew that I had to do that for him. You know, that when he's doing something that's hard, that I encourage him and support him and love him. And, you know, so it's always been just doing it together. You think because someone loves you that they should read your mind and know what you need and how to do things for you, because they love you, right? We've been married almost 34 years, and we still have to communicate to each other. You know, we can't just expect someone to understand what we need. And so one of the things is that we have talked about specifically about what we need. Like, I remember trying to go somewhere, and I was loading up the car, and he was busy mowing or doing something else, and I'm thinking, can he see that my arms are full, that I'm, you know, and I had to tell him, you know, my love language, how you show me that you love me is to help me, to ease my burdens, to do things for me that would help me. And so, you know, I need you to help me load that car when I'm ready to go somewhere, and I've got all these things because I'm going somewhere and I have to put on an event or whatever. And so now he understands that, oh, that's why I like it when he does the dishes. That's why I like it when he'll pick up the vacuum and vacuum, because it eases some of my burdens. Well, but me doing that for him is not as important for him. For him, he likes it when I just spend time with him. So, you know, me doing the laundry for him isn't as big of a deal as me sitting here with him and, you know, spending time with him. So he'd like me to go down to the shed and sit with him while he changes the oil or does something like that. But it's important to him. And so now that we've had to communicate that, though. We've had to understand that, you know, this is what I need and this is what I want.
I think marriage is evolving all the time. Mm-hmm. So you're aging as people, and you continue to communicate on what you want and what you desire. And that might change from time to time, and you have to stay up on that, because I can't read her mind any better than I could when we first got married. So I appreciate it when she tells me those things that I can do different.
We have a lot of private jokes, though, still. We can read each other's minds sometimes. We kind of start laughing when we know some situation's up that we're like, yeah, we get that.
When we first got married, I was farming with my grandfather, and we had cattle, and when you're farming, you work till it's dark. And she came from the city, and she had her first meal on the table at 5 o'clock, and table was set, and it was all ready. And
because that was the tradition in our family. When my dad came home, it was ready, right?
And I came home an hour or two later than that, and she just couldn't understand where I was and that it was dinner time. So we had to adjust our lifestyle there a little bit to compensate for what I do for a living now. So that was a communication opportunity for us to learn how to change that.
It's always the babies. I mean, those are the moments that, don't you think? I mean, because they're both a piece of you, you know? And I had to have cesarean sections with all my babies, and but he was always right there, you know, and to have that little baby, to look over and have him holding that baby, and that baby's looking right in his eyes, you know, each one of them, he was such a big part of that. And I think that was my cherished moment. I don't know. Do you have?
We had some cherished moments, I think, before we got married, but I think she's right that it kind of culminated, I suppose, in our purpose here on Earth is to create families, and to know that we created this being was truly a miracle. But it made me so much more connected to her, knowing that we had done that
and shared that responsibility for that baby too, you know. Yeah. It was really sweet. I love his sense of humor. He just makes me laugh all the time. So I love his sense of humor, and he's so kind. He's so kind to people, to everyone. People always love him, and I found myself wanting to be like him even before we were married. That was one of the things that really intrigued me about him, is how he was so kind to everyone. So I think those are my two very favorite things about him, you know.
I think one thing that came to mind as I thought about that question is, one thing about Lisa is that no matter what she's doing, she does it with a great passion. Whether we're replacing a faucet in the kitchen, she's poring over the instructions and making sure everything is right. And I'm not that way, so I'm just starting to put things together. And so she's very passionate about doing that, about teaching her lessons in church, or anything that she does, she really puts her heart and soul into it. But where I benefit from that is she puts her heart and soul into our marriage and our relationship, and I appreciate that.
I think that's true joy, is to share this life with someone else that you love so much. You know, that's true joy. That's what it is. That's the best part about marriage, is that you just get to share it.
Well, I always have a date on Friday night.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about, but it's just a safe place to be, a safe place to go home to every night, and not have to be concerned about anything but our relationship and what we're going to enjoy doing together throughout our life.
Yeah. And, you know, I think, too, with that is the loyalty involved in being married. You know, there's, and the trust that we have. You know, we have such loyalty and trust, which is what a strong relationship is built on. You know, I don't have to worry that he would be disrespectful of me in any way. You know, I don't have to worry that he would be looking at someone else, or that he would be looking at pornography, or that he would do anything that would be disrespectful of me. He's And the other thing is, it's so nice to have someone always saying I love you to you. Those words are powerful. And he's been always really good about just making sure that he expresses gratitude and that he says I love you.
I think the one thing when you consider the concept of marriage is that I found that my whole life up until marriage was fairly selfish. I mean, I was worrying about myself, worrying about what I was going to do, and things that I wanted to achieve. And then when I became married, my thoughts turned more to what's going to make her happy and what's she gonna like? Is she comfortable? Is she happy? And I kind of lost myself back there, my interests and selfish desires to her needs. And I think once I got better at that, all the differences just kind of melted away. There were no real differences. We just communicated through them and compromised if we needed to, and went our merry way.
I think we've always had real common goals. I think once you have common goals, you realize that you are different, and that's what's great. It's great because where he's like, I was really wound tight. I was just getting out of nursing school when we were married, and he had this great sense of humor that I needed to help me relax. And so I think it would have been awful if we both thought it was funny and couldn't get the wallpaper just right. Somebody needed to say, we need to line the flowers up, which that was a hard thing to do, wallpapering together, I'm just saying. But somebody needed to line up the flowers and somebody needed to just get the job done. And by doing it together, we got it done. And it's okay. It's okay to be different. As if we're saying this is our goal, we're going to work together. His strengths are many times my weaknesses, and my strengths are his weaknesses. And I can't expect all of my strengths to be matched. I just dig in and do my part, and he digs in and does his part, and we get it done because our goals are the same. And so we were just trying to slap up some wallpaper on there. And he just wanted to get it done, and I was like, no, we have got to match all those little petals, and we've got to match that.
The flowers were this tall.
The flowers were this. And he's
Are you kidding?
So I said, no, we have got to line those up. And so that was our advice to any new couple that was ever getting married from then on out. Don't wallpaper together. And thank heavens, people don't put wallpaper up anymore because, yeah, that was hard. But that was a good thing for us to realize, oh, she likes to be precise and do everything well.
She's psycho. Good to know.
And I knew that he just wants to get the job done. But we compromise. And that was a good way to learn it.
I have been involved in financial banking for most of my career. It didn't start out that way as a real burning desire, but it just became that and has evolved, and now it's made, it's something I enjoy doing, and that's kind of all I've known. So I'm in a good place now that I enjoy and love what I do, and it's allowed us to have the time on weekends and be with our family, and it's been good in that respect. So it's been a good thing for our family.
Yeah. And I'm a registered nurse, and I've been working for, right after we got married. So we did go to school together for a little while because I was an LPN when we got married, and then went back to be a registered nurse. And So it's worked around our family, and it's been a great career for me too. And I've just worked part-time while the little kids were growing up. And
I make sure that I always made sure that I set boundaries for my time. I budgeted my time at work to where I knew that I could get out on time, or if I had to be late one night, I made sure I was out on time the next night. But I never let it grow into a habit of spending more time. And so I always prioritized that and made sure that my time at home was protected, and it was precious to me, and I wanted to keep it that way. So it was just a conscious effort. Nothing short of calendaring in things with the kids or with Lisa. So just made sure that was on the calendar and was honored. We still continue to look forward to Friday nights for date night, and wonder what we're going to do that night. Start talking about it a day or two before, and enjoy that time together. That makes it an official date night for us.
Yeah. And I tried to make it to where he wanted to come home. You know, he'd walk through the door, and I'd plant a good kiss on him and a hug, and I wanted him to be happy to be home. And so, and our kids the same way, and when we left each other, we always said, I love you when we come home to each other and when we leave. And we had this little wave. Even the kids would line up along the couch and wave with our I love you sign. That was a little tradition that we did. And I just... the other thing that was kind of funny that we were thinking about just the other night is sometimes you just didn't get to have any time to talk alone at all with kids, and you're so tired by the time it was time to go to bed. And one thing, we always made it a goal to go to bed at the same time, to retire to bed at the same time. Not one of us was staying up late and doing other things. And I mean, it happens on a great once in a while, but it was that we'd go to bed early, and that was our time to talk. And sometimes we'd still have kids coming in, and we'd say, hey, you better go to bed. We're talking about Christmas. That was our thing to say. We're talking about Christmas. You better get back to bed. And they would leave and go to bed, and that would give us some time to talk.
I think being spontaneous has always been good. We try to do different things. We don't just go out to dinner every time. We do it a lot, it seems like, but we try to do something different. And if there's a certain event to go to, we try that. My work is good about having different events going on for different things, and I always make sure that I try to get Lisa to those, and that's always fun because you meet different people and keep things different that way. Sometimes we'll just go out of town for an overnight hotel stay or something, and just trying to be different with what we do and not get into routines and be boring.
Yeah. I think changing it up makes it nice. Little love notes. Those are so sweet to get and to give, And the things that don't cost a lot of money have always been my favorite things. Even when we were first married, we made a little fire and cooked some stew on some fire outside, Just little things like that. Going on a walk is my favorite thing. We have a little four-wheeler now that we like to take. When we were first married, we went on motorcycle rides and just doing those kind of things. Just little, and keeping it spontaneous. He's a planner, I'm spontaneous. See, but once in a while we just say, let's just go on a four-wheeler ride, or let's just go do something. And that's how you keep it alive. And just, I think intimacy is a really important part of marriage. And to keep that a priority in your marriage, that's one way that you can truly show each other love, great love. And it was designed and meant to be that way. And so making sure that you take time to be intimate in a beautiful way together.
You better go first.
I always look at him and feel that way. When I first met him, I felt that way. I just thought he was so cute in his blue Torino. But then as I got to know him, I saw him talking to this kid with his really popular friends, talking to this kid that was a very awkward looking kid, kind of more than awkward. Yeah. And Troy was talking to him like he just had all the time of the day for him. And I was just not that secure with myself. I was a little more insecure growing up, feeling like, you had to be seen with the right people. And I watched him and how he was so kind to that young boy. And then I saw him too, putting his arm around his mother and being so kind to his mother and putting his arm around his sister. And just, and I thought, wow, that just really impressed me, of how much I loved him. And I thought of that often before we got married. I thought of him often because of that reason and tried to be like him.
I think many visions come to my mind of watching her reading to our kids at bedtime or reading on the couch or teaching them a Bible story or teaching them something, anything. And I just always appreciated her taking that time with our kids to read books, to do things with them and not park them in front of the TV and that be the babysitter. But I always appreciated her being the mother that she is and nurturing our children and taking that very seriously and making that a priority for each one of our kids.
He nibbled on my ear too. I always thought that was cute.
We've heard so many people say if you can survive the first year of marriage, you can survive, your chances are pretty good. But I never felt like we had any hard
it was so fun
times.
Yeah.
We from day one enjoyed being together, and it was just like kind of like a fantasy land or for me that first year. I think because our interests and our desires were so similar that we weren't two worlds colliding, but we were one in purpose and and we're just excited to spend our life together forever. And I just never felt that way.
Lucky that way. Mm-hmm.
But every event that happens in your life, anniversaries, children, tragedies, if you will, even define your marriage and cement that and solidify that even more. So no matter what event happens, every Christmas makes your marriage stronger. Everything you do together, I think.
Going through unemployment, that was
challenges.
Hard. Yeah, going through unemployment. When you're kids, you're just so involved in everything, and just all of those things kind of.
And once in a while, your kids will make mistakes, and you're dealing with that child and talking as parents on how to go forward on that, and that is a great growing relationship, growing experience too.
Yeah. those things that aren't always easy are sometimes the best learning experiences. The things that you look back and you go, man, we learned so much from that, but it was dang hard. It was hard. And, I think that I don't know what we would have done without prayer. We have made it a tradition in our family we pray together every day, and we read the scriptures every day. And I've seen my daughter doing the same thing with her family now that she's married and has children, and so those traditions are something that are kind of glue, like that going to church every day. There were things you could count on, even amidst maybe chaos going on, that there were things that you could always count on. And even our children that would come home late from a date would sit on the edge of our bed, and we'd pray with them and talk with them about their date and their day, and so that we could connect with each child too, and make sure that they knew that we love them.
I think as far as keeping our wedding vows, we've experienced a number of those. We've been poor. We're still not rich, but we've been poor. We've had health challenges, and we've had different challenges to meet most of those guidelines.
Gone to school together, both of us in school together, paying for our own school together. He's been still in school. I've been working.
So I think growing up the way I did, once you get married, you stay married, and it's a commitment that you keep. And so I knew that there wasn't that other foot out the door getting ready to bolt if I needed to. So I knew that if we had a difference or had something to work through, that we had to deal with it, and we had to get through it so that we could progress and move forward. It wasn't an option to just leave it unattended and not resolved. So I think that commitment of taking marriage seriously and knowing that it's forever is what changed everything for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, it takes work. I think if you know how to work hard, then you're successful in everything. Marriage takes work. Keeping a house is work. Raising a family is work. And if you're not afraid to work, it'll be okay. You'll get through it. I think we prepare for things that happen that we're not expecting in our life by being spiritually prepared. I think, if you're in a good place emotionally and mentally enough to where you can prepare, and through faith in Jesus Christ and through prayers, through going to church, you kind of fill your lamp with oil. And then you're prepared so that when those hard things happen, you're not without oil. So I think that's the best way to prepare, is when times are good, you fill yourself with oil. You do those things that enrich your life and make you strong, so that then when those hard things come, you're strong enough to get through it.
Our family had, on Monday nights, we would meet together as a family for family night, we called it. And part of our nights were spent discussing emergency preparedness.
Oh, yeah.
So we would make sure all the kids knew where's our meeting point if there's a fire in the house and you have to get out, where we're all going to meet, where are we going to go. We had some provisions in backpacks that we could grab and run in case of any emergency, and we all would go through there and find and know where those were. we would go through and make sure we knew where the fire extinguishers were.
How to con line 911, on the phone.
Those are simple things that we did.
Those are actual emergency kind of things that you're talking about.
But I think it gave them peace of mind to know that we had talked about it, and that there, heaven forbid there was an emergency, they might very well remember what we talked about and feel comfort in that. So
They wouldn't be afraid that way, that it would be okay, because they were prepared. He doesn't ever do it wrong. It's always me. I'm the one that backs it into something. Oh, gosh. So,
you ready?
Yeah.
there's been times when I've been the one to create the accident. Right?
A couple of times. I think one thing that I have evolved in with this is that I'm not as worried about material things when a vehicle has a problem or is wrecked. I'm worried now more about, is she okay? Is she hurt? Or those kinds of things. And with children, we've had children that have made mistakes, and we've been able to discuss it as parents and discuss how we're going to work through this and what we're going to say, and agree upon it as a husband and wife before approaching the child and
Being unified with that. And
yeah.
And the bottom line is, it's so important to just be loving. I mean, that is the key to everything. And, we got to where Troy's so good about that, and he's always the one that's meticulous about his cars and everything. And so even for his birthday one time, I said, Troy, I'm sorry, I had borrowed that pickup that day because I told him I needed the pickup so that I could borrow it to take something for a friend of mine and take something over to her house. And so actually I'd taken it down and gotten some new, what are those called? The airflow, the
dual exhaust.
Dual exhaust, and he'd wanted those, so they make a lot of noise, and it was kind of cool. So I put those on, and then I told him when he came home, I'm sorry, honey, I had an accident with your pickup, and he was so calm, and well, let's go look at it together. And I just loved him for that. I loved him so much. That was my gift on his birthday. We walked down, and then we had balloons on the pickup and a sign, and the boys were all excited because he got these cool exhausts, on his pickup. And, but the other thing is with our boys, one of our boys that was making a choice that I was really sad about, and prayerful about, wasn't following that pattern of life that we had hoped he would. And I had kind of expressed some sadness about that, at first. And then I had to go back. He was in college, and I had to get in the car and go back down there to him because we'd seen him on a weekend, and it was after a football game, and I went down again, and I just said, hey, I want to take you out on a date. And he was a little surprised that I would be driving all the way to his college to see him. And I told him, I said, whatever choices you make, I said, I will love you no matter what choice you make. I will always love you. That will never change. And I said, as a mother, I want you to have all the things that would make you the happiest. And so these are the things that I feel would make you the happiest. And because we want to give everything to our kids. We want them to be the happiest. But then when I said that, no matter what you choose, I will always love you, no matter what. I just saw his shoulders just relax. And I thought, that's always the answer. It's not a trite phrase. Love is always the answer. If it's with your children, first of all, you have to be willing to do the things you're asking them to do. You have to be that same person. And when you're not, you have to be willing to ask their forgiveness when you've messed up too, you know? And but then you teach them. You have to take that time to have those talks. And a lot of times it's during chores. That's the best time. Or at the end of your bed when you are so tired. We would be so tired, but they're willing to talk at midnight. That's when their defenses are down and they want to talk about everything. And you do it. You make sure you do it. And you talk to them about your own experiences and about other people's experiences and how those things didn't go so well for those people or for yourself. And you just have conversations about it. And then when you know that you've taught them clearly, then it's just like I've said about my son, then you pray for them, that they'll make those choices correctly that will bring them great happiness in their life. And then you live the example too. You have to live it too.
I think we've had some instances where when you set a boundary or set a rule, if you will, that these are the blessings that happen when you keep it, and these are the consequences if you don't. And you can apply that to anything from putting gas on the lawnmower to any other big decision in life. But I think watching, we keep saying boys, but we had a girl too that can't remember her mistakes, but
the boys think she was perfect.
But I think staying with those consequences and not bailing them out, if you will, when they do have those facing them, teaches a great lesson too.
Every choice has a consequence. It's either a good consequence or not, and we learn from those consequences. And the thing that I have learned from Troy in our marriage is that I used to, I should have done this, and I still struggle with that. And he has taught me, well, next time I'll do this. And I think that's how you can guide your children too, to not be so defeated by some of those things and even in our marriage, to not be defeated by the mistakes that we've made, but to learn from them and to say, you know what, next time we're going to do it this way because we learned that didn't work very well. That was not the consequence we were looking for.
I would say, like I'd said earlier, I think the most important thing you can do is to forget yourself and your selfish desires and concentrate on the well-being of your new wife or your new husband, to lose yourself in one another, if you will. And I think when you do that, you'll find that you both are doing the same thing for each other, and you're fighting over who can make the other one the happiest. So it kind of, your example can cause the other one to do the same thing. And keeping things new and fresh and different, to not get into routines and not get into things that you take for granted, but to always seek look out for the respect and dignity of that spouse.
Mm-hmm. If I were going to tell something to a couple that's just going to get married, I would say it's the small and simple things that make a big difference. It's just those small and simple things every day that truly make a marriage great. The the little I love yous, the helping each other, the kisses behind the neck, those little things every day. And if you kind of tease each other a little bit, like do those unexpected little sweet things, like a note in the sock drawer, those are the things that just give some spice to your marriage and make you truly love each other. So
I think one thing one piece of advice I would say about marriage is that once you made that decision and made that commitment, to know that it's all worth it. It's a wonderful experience. It's a wonderful thing to be able to go home to someone you love every evening, to have that stability in your life, that companion that will walk you through any experience that you encounter. Every experience is so much richer when there's someone there to share it with. Mm-hmm. And that's the important thing, is the loneliness is not there. And I just look forward to coming home and being with my wife in the evening. And that's what's important, is that it's all worth it. It's very worth it to go get married.
And to talk about it. Talk about the things that are important to you and, what you need. Say, I really need you to do such and such. That would make me feel more loved. I mean, that's such a great way to say it. Instead of, if you'd only do, So to just communicate kindly to each other. You can say things in a kind way and a loving way, and, you get more.
We heard a long time ago, don't use the words never and always.
That is not fair fighting. Because it's not true. It can't be true that you
always do that, or you never do that.
Yeah, that's not fair to say that. We're all just trying. We're just trying to be better, and you just keep thinking, each day I'm just going to try to be a little better. And if you think of it that way, and each day I'm going to love a little more, then it'll be okay.
I think one thing that changes your perspective when you're married is that if we were ever having a disagreement or a discussion about something, I realize the sanctity of marriage, and that this is something that we have committed to for life and forever, and it changes the way you resolve differences. You are more intent on getting it resolved the right way to where it is successful for both of you.